Hello and welcome to the Co-Optimus.com PC building feature. We're going to take you through step by step today on how you build a PC from start to scratch. We're going to show you how to pick the parts, the different options you have, and then actually how to assemble it and get the most out of your gaming PC. First, I'd like to thank some companies that sponsored us today: Intel, Gigabyte, and Corsair, as well as NZXT. All helped us out today to bring you guys a really swanky looking gaming PC. So let's go through and take a look at what exactly goes into building a PC. Okay, first up you have your case. This is the NZXT Phantom. We chose this case for not only its aesthetics but for the size. It is a full tower case. This means it's one of the largest case form factors out there. It'll fit any size motherboard. It also has great airflow features. You can see the drive plates are all vented. There's a lot of fans and cooling options inside. It comes with a 120mm rear fan as well as a 200mm top fan. Plenty of drive bays for hard drives and stuff. And also you have these excellent grommets here to do wire routing behind your motherboard and stuff, which is great for a really neat look, as well as good for airflow. The side panel here, which we took off already, again, nice and vented. Has 220mm fans on the side to blow cool air in across your hard drives, especially if you want to do one of those great RAID setups. So we have that. So the next piece, obviously we don't want to put your motherboard in there. Let's take a look at that. For our motherboard, we chose a Gigabyte X58A UD3R motherboard. This is a 1136 socket motherboard for Intel processors. On the back here we have plenty of ports. We have built-in audio for 7.1 surround sound. You have your network at 1 gigabit. You also have eSATA ports for external hard drives, USB 3 ports. You also have digital audio output and your keyboard and mouse. So the next thing we're going to want to do is put the standoff thumb screws in the motherboard tray where we want to put them. In this case we have a full ATX board, so we're going to put them in the case in the slots marked A for the ATX, and then we'll screw in our motherboard into that. So the next piece of the PC build, probably the most important thing, which I've seen people skimp out on time and time again over the 15-20 years I've been building PCs, is the power supply, or the PSU. This is the most important piece of your system because it's going to power everything, and you want a good quality power supply, one that's going to last a while and has ample power to power all your devices. Today's video cards are very power hungry, and processors as well. We have gone with a Corsair AX750 power supply. It's a modular power supply. It's gold rated. This means that it runs at peak efficiency under load. You can see there's no cables attached right now because we're going to attach those later as needed. This means you won't have all these extra cables laying around your case that you have nothing to do with. You only plug in the ones that you need. So we'll have a look at that as we install it. Next, we're going to want to get the power supply unit in there. This is real easy in the NZXT. It's got nice rubber standoffs here to put it on to reduce vibration. You just kind of slide it in like this and lock it in place. So our next step is actually going to be to assemble the components in the motherboard, at least our memory, our processor, as well as attaching the heatsink and fan to the processor. It's much easier to do it on a table on a flat surface with a lot of tension. Make it easier for you to put those in. And after we get that stuff in, then we'll put the motherboard actually in the case. Okay, to install the processor, you'll notice a little gold arrow up here. That's going to be your top right part of the processor you want to put in. You'll see an arrow on the socket itself, and you want to align it, and then we'll clip it in. So the processors now, they don't have pins you actually have to push in. They just kind of sit in there nice and easy. So you line it up, you put the retention clip down so it lays flat, and then pull this down, and that's it, your processor's installed. So retail processors come with their own heatsink and fan. These do an adequate job of cooling. But if you ever want to do any kind of overclocking or stuff like that, you're going to want to try and upgrade. Installing them, fairly straightforward. The instructions are included with the processor. You'll see some mounting holes on the motherboard, which these just pop into. You clip it right on. This little kind of grayish goop on the bottom is your thermal compound. This helps the temperature between the processor and the heatsink and fan transfer smoothly instead of having metal against metal, which isn't very efficient. You can use a third-party thermal compound, which will be a lot better, or most of them nowadays just have it on there. If you do want to use a third-party one, make sure you use something like rubbing alcohol to clean this off real good, as well as your processor. Today for our heatsink and fan, though, we're going to use Corsair's H70. It is a hydro series, which means it's a combination actually of water cooling and air cooling. It's a closed system, so you don't have to worry about filling it or anything like that. And all you got to do is we're gonna mount a bracket on the underside of the motherboard and attach this, and then this radiator is going to mount to the back of the case, and we're going to put a fan on that. So the first thing we're going to do for the H70 is install the bracket. To do that, we have these little pins that we match up on the outside of the bracket to our chipset type. In this case, we're using 1366. So all we do is we push these in like so. Get all 3 in there, or 4 in there. You're also going to want to attach these adhesive pads, and this will help when we mount it on the motherboard to help it stick there. So that's actually all we're going to do with our heatsink fan for now until we get it mounted in the case. Up next is the memory. We've got some Corsair Dominator memory provided by Corsair. We're actually going to be installing 12 gigabytes, though you can probably get away with 6 gigabytes. It's 3 chips because it's triple channel. This is the Intel Core i7 processor, utilizes triple channel memory to get the best performance. So as you can see, the Gigabyte X58A UD3R has 6 memory slots, so we can accommodate plenty of memory here. What we're going to want to do is install it in the same colored slots for our 3 ones, because you want to run it in triple channel. So we're going to choose the white slots, install 3 chips that way. So now comes the part that always makes me nervous, because you're gonna, when you push this in for the first time, you're gonna hear the little crunch. You're gonna just push these tabs back, make sure the pins here line up with the pins on the motherboard. Just push it in straight, use both thumbs, and push down until you see the sides clip in there. And that's all you got to do to install the memory. It's really pretty simple. So every motherboard comes with a back plate, and this back plate is going to match what's on the back of the motherboard, and you're going to want to put this in the back of your case. All you do is line it up and push it in until it snaps. Now we're going to take our motherboard and line the back of that up with the standoff we just put in there, or the back plating, and we line it up with the motherboard standoffs we used earlier. There's screw holes on the motherboard itself, and you just want to get those lined up. Once you get the back of it lined up, you're going to give it a little push to click it into it, and if you look down, you should see everything all nice and lined up. So attaching the screws in the motherboard can be a little tricky. There's not much room to work with for your thumb. This is a good place to use a magnetized screwdriver, or another tip is you take a screwdriver and use a piece of tape and just tape the screw on there and screw it in, and the tape will break off. The magnetized screwdriver isn't going to hurt anything at this point. There's no hard drive in the machine. In total, there should be 9 screws for an ATX motherboard. The screws will be pretty small and short, but you'll notice there's kind of like this round, flat, extra metal that comes out from the top of it to help support it when the board is in the case. Next up, we're going to be installing the retention bracket for the H70 into our motherboard. What we're going to do is line it up with the screw holes, and we're going to screw each side down just a little bit. We want to just kind of let it sit there and stay pretty loose so we can install the actual cooler itself. So our retention bracket's in. You'll see it kind of fits over that clip we used to push the processor in before. It sits in there kind of nice and loose, so we can get that cooler in soon. First, we're going to install the radiator and fan. So we're installing the radiator now. What we did is we got the fan installed, we're going to have it pulling cool air from outside the case and across the radiator. This is what Corsair recommends, and with our case, this works really well because we have this exhaust fan right here that's going to suck the hot air out. So we got the screws installed here. You use a washer and a screw. It goes through the fan itself and then onto the radiator to hold it into place. So we have the thermal compound here on the radiator cooling unit. This is going to be the power for it. And what we want to do is we want to line it up here with our retention ring through the holes, and then just kind of twist once it gets through there all the way so it locks into place. And once it's locked like that, we want to just tighten our screws here on the outside to really hold it into place. Again, I recommend doing opposite corners when you do this to make sure everything's nice and lined up good. Finally, once that's all attached, you want to attach the power for the pump to the jumper on your motherboard, or the power connector on your motherboard marked CPU fan. This will supply it the amp power it needs to run.